All right. No? Not all right yet? Good afternoon. We're going to get started. It's 6:31. My name is Lorenzo Coviella. I am your deputy town attorney, along with my partner Raul Gastesi. I've been serving as your attorneys for some time now. So I was asked to give you all a refresher on committee rules, regulations, and procedures, and we're going to talk a little bit about Robert's Rules of Order. Now, these are all the rules that are really intended to help you in your committee work and make sure that you get the people's business done. So with the committee rules and regulations and procedures, what I've been asked to is just kind of highlight some of the big changes that have taken place in the last year to the rules. And I'm going to start just by kind of going through all of them bit by bit. And if you have any questions, just, save them towards the end, and then I'll try to answer them the best I can, okay? So we're going to start with the committee rules, then I'm going to move to Robert's Rules of Order, and then we'll kind of tie it up. And I'll make a pause in between for questions. All right. So as you go through the committee rules, understand that the way that rules work, and they work here in the town of Miami Lakes, they work in any other city in Miami-Dade County. Everybody has their own rules of procedure, and all the rules of procedure are kind of born out of Robert's Rules of Order. Robert's Rules of Order kind of sets the stage of how procedure is supposed to happen, right, in one of our meetings. It also pulls from some Florida statutes. Some of the most important Florida statutes that really govern how committee rules are supposed to work are those that relate to sunshine, right? We can't meet and talk about our committee business outside in Publix and start talking about what we're going to vote on. That's a sunshine violation. Everything has to happen out in the open, all right? Giving also persons a meaningful time to be able to give a comment and be able to speak is also important. Those are public comments. Now, meaningful doesn't mean that they're going to talk the entire meeting. It doesn't mean that they're going to talk in the middle, at the end, and at the beginning, and whenever they want to kind of interrupt. No. I mean, there needs to be order in our meetings. If not, you're not going to get anything accomplished, you're not going to be able to get what you want accomplished. All right? So a meaningful time is usually at the very beginning of the meeting. The agenda's printed out. It says public comments, and let people speak for 3 minutes. If you want to extend it for 4 minutes, that's fine. I mean, the important thing is to get the public's feedback. But get the public's feedback at the time that's appropriate, at the beginning, and then you can continue with your meeting. So, again, all these rules are either based on Robert's Rules of Order, kind of statute, kind of rules that we need to abide by, and it's memorialized in these committee rules and regulations procedures. All right. So, that being said, the first part is sunset. Basically, it says that all committees are created for initial 1 year period and they can sunset. Each resolution of all your committees, all committees here in the town were created by resolution. They have to. Have to be created by the mayor with confirmation from the council, and they all sunset after 1 year. Many of them have provisions that have allow them never to sunset, and that's fine. The second thing is what I just mentioned to you. Again, these are public meetings. So you have sunshine and you also have public records. Anything you share in a meeting is a public record, all right? And so it's important that you keep a copy and you make sure you give it to Isle or whomever is your town staffer that's working for you, your coordinator, all right? Regular meetings. All committees shall hold one regular public meeting each month at Town Hall. Okay, this is a requirement. Each committee should be holding a meeting on a monthly basis in Town Hall. The meetings don't need to be 2-3 hours long. They can be 1 hour. Just what's going on, get to the business at hand, and you move forward. A special meeting can be called with 48-hour notice. All right, moving along. Chairperson's meeting. Quarterly, all the chairpersons are supposed to meet and share their ideas and share their concerns. This meeting in particular is kind of born out of the chairperson's meeting, where some concerns as to what rules and what the rules mean and how meetings should be conducted have surfaced, right? Committees can have subcommittees. If you have a committee, Dottie is in charge of the Elderly Affairs Committee, and they do a lot of events, and maybe they're planning a special event, and they want to do a subcommittee just to plan that event. That's fine. You can have and create a subcommittee. Again, the subcommittee is governed by the same rules and laws. You got to publish. You got to give public notice. Let the public know when the meeting is going to take place. Go ahead and have an agenda published. Go ahead and make sure that the meeting is being recorded, minutes are being taken. All those things are important, and all those things are Florida statute driven. Okay. Public comments, as I mentioned, the way that public comments reads, it says any town resident, organization, or member of the public will be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard on a proposition before the committee during the public comment portion of any committee meeting. Members of the public shall advise the chairperson of their desire to be heard at any time prior to the public comments portion of the meeting. An individual shall have 3 minutes to address the committee or such other period of time as the chairperson deems reasonable under the circumstances of the meeting. Members of the public may participate in public comments in person or remotely. That's something new that we added. Before, it was only in person. Now with Zoom technology, we're allowing folks from the public to appear via Zoom during the public comment portion of the meeting. Yes, Felicia. Uh-huh. I would discourage you from doing that. I mean, that's because it creates a disorderly, environment. You have a business at hand that you need to complete. You need to provide the public time to speak, but everything I think should be orderly. Correct. So I mean, the people. And the town, I think, is doing something amazing that a lot of cities, I can tell you, do not do, in allowing people to appear remotely and give remote comments. That is something that is not that common. We are actually the exception, not the rule, when it comes to that. So even now for committee meetings, people from the comfort of their own home can go ahead and log on and give their comments. So the idea is really we want people to do and be able to participate, but you also want order. You have a certain amount of things you need to get done in the agenda. And usually your agenda is, you have your roll call, right? Then you have public comments. Then you go into the order of business. You usually do old business, right? And then you go into new business, and then you wrap up. I'm not against that after you've gone through all of your business and you still have maybe a little bit of time and people don't mind listening to some folks who are online, go ahead and do that. But the most important thing is to make sure that, once you've given folks, that time period for public comments, that you get your business done, right? And that's very important. Yeah. To handle what in particular, Dottie? Okay. Okay.
So when we have a meeting, she can't be there. So I said, then, make sure you address it to the town.
Okay.
Now, does that go to the mayor? Who does it, they address
Well,
it to?
you have a liaison, right? I think it's Isle, right? So the best thing is have Isle take the information. She's the liaison for a reason, right? She's your link to the staff and to the manager.
Should be addressed to her.
Exactly. So I will know what to do with that information. So
Okay.
she's the best person.
All right, thank you.
Okay. All right. So quorum. Quorum again is statutory. What does quorum mean? It means a majority of the members, right? So if you have a 5-member committee, how many members need to be there present for quorum? 3. We don't divide people. That's not a good thing. King Solomon did that a long time ago, or tried to. So it's very important, right? So quorum needs to be established before the meeting, and quorum cannot be established electronically. So in other words, you can't have 2 people at the meeting and 1 person online in a 5-member committee to meet quorum. The 3 people need to be physically present. If not, quorum is not established. All right. Voting. Everybody gets 1 vote. I know sometimes we want to vote twice, but you can't do it. 1 vote per person. All right, we can't be greedy. And the vote, again, if you have quorum, the person that's online can vote. That's perfectly okay, provided that there's quorum. All right? Attendance. All right, so this is where a lot of changes were made, and I'm just going to focus in on them, right? Committee members are expected, I'm going to read the whole thing, and then if you have questions, please ask. Committee members are expected to attend all scheduled committee meetings, including regular meetings, special meetings, and any meetings of subcommittees, in order to conduct committees and town business. A committee member shall be automatically removed if they accrue 3 unexcused absences from regularly scheduled meetings during the same 12-month rolling calendar year. They accrue 3 consecutive absences from regularly scheduled committee meetings during the same 12-month rolling calendar, regardless of whether it's excused or unexcused. They accrue 5 absences from regularly scheduled committee meetings during the same 12-month rolling calendar, whether excused or unexcused. So they will be automatically removed if they fall into one of these 3 categories. Okay? Absences shall be considered excused if and only the absence was due to a medical reason, the death of a committee member's immediate family, unexpected work-related commitment, military service, any other reason in which the committee chair, in their discretion, classifies as an excused absence. Again, you can qualify all of them as excused. If they miss them within that, 3 consecutively within that 12 months, they're going to be automatically removed. The committee chair shall have sole discretion to classify an absence as an excused or unexcused. In case of absence by committee chair, the vice chair shall have sole discretion to classify the absence of the committee chair as excused or unexcused. Nothing herein shall be construed to allow the committee chair or vice chair, in cases of absence of the chair, to access protected, privileged, confidential, otherwise private information to ascertain whether the absence was excused or unexcused. And each committee member is permitted to attend no more than 2 committee meetings, including regular meetings, special call meetings, and meetings of any subcommittee members have volunteered for via remote appearances during any calendar year. So you can do it only twice. You can't do it all the time. All right? No person shall act as chair of a meeting while appearing remotely. Yes.
Just to make sure, Carlos Anders with Public Safety. Something that came up, I think Town Clerk brought it up a few meetings ago, that when you submit now your quarterly report, your annual report, you will have to have the attendance on there, all right? So before that wasn't required, now it is. So it will be rebutted back to the chair. So just make sure you keep that on there. Thank you.
So what was that again?
So when we submit our biannual report to Town Council, well, it goes through Town Clerk first, right? We have to put the attendance on there.
Okay.
All right. So.
Yeah.
Lorenzo.
Yes.
Just to clarify, and thank you for bringing that up, you're going to discuss it in a few minutes. It's under the letter F.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get to that F, you can explain it again, and I'm going to kind of give an opinion to make things easier for the chairs and for the committee members.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So the committee member participating remotely is responsible for notifying the committee liaison no later than 24 hours prior to the meeting start date. The committee member appearing remotely is responsible for coordinating with the committee liaison. Committee member appearing remotely must keep their camera on and their face must remain visible. Normal bathroom breaks are expected, and that's okay. Committee member appearing remotely must be able to hear everyone in attendance in person at the meeting. Everyone in attendance in person at the meeting must be able to hear the committee member. The committee member appearing remotely shall wear appropriate attire. The committee member appearing remotely shall ensure to have anything obscene or distracting. If the committee member appearing remotely may mute their audio while they are not speaking, but shall ensure that they are not in a noisy environment. When calling a voice vote, the chair shall orally confirm the votes of any committee members appearing remotely, separate from those attending in person. The committee member appearing remotely is responsible for ensuring that they have sufficient strong internet data. It is now to F. It is a responsibility of the committee's secretary to take minutes and accurately reflect attendance of all committee meetings, including whether any absence are excused or unexcused, and whether each committee member's attendance was in person via remote appearance. Attendance reports shall be included in the chairman's semi-annual report to the town council and will specify whether any committee members have met or surpassed their absence limits in 10B above, but have not yet been removed.
So this is the section that the chair from Public Safety was making reference, and I've had several meetings with IO. Isabella is also agreeing. This is a very, very important section. Of all these changes that I think the committee rules suffered in the last few months, which are excellent. Attendance, which Attorney Coviela just went over it, and this section. And I'm just gonna go slowly, and Lorenzo, you can please jump in, and the elected officials who are here, who also worked on this with a lot of patience and love. So minutes are essential because it really shows the will of the committee. And it is for their guidance as well. So we're really being very, very strict about this. Every time you report to the council twice a year. So police, when you submit your memo with the report, we're gonna be very strict. If minutes are not attached, we're not accepting the report. And again, it is for the benefit of the committee and for the benefit of the elected officials to really understand that what the chair or the vice chair is stating via that report, sometimes oral report, it is backed by the minutes. That's all. We're just asking to please. And so far, we haven't had any problems. But we just want to stress on that. And then the other importance, the secretary, while you're taking roll call, which usually happens right at the beginning of the meeting, right? Be patient, like I am with the elected officials, because sometimes committee members show up a little bit late, 10, 15, 20 minutes. You cannot mark a person that is late absent. Like I don't mark elected officials that show up to the meeting late. I just write it in my minutes. The elected official walked in and joined the meeting at 7 o'clock. The meeting started at 6:30, but the person was part of the meeting. So just make sure, because in the past, we've had some issues, committee members saying, no, but I've never been absent. Well, the person was late. Secretary, if you need help, I don't know, maybe the liaisons can help with that. Maybe other committee members say, hey, the committee member Smith just walked in, put it in the roll call. But just pay attention to those little details. As well, for this section, F, to be a success, Ayo, do you have with you the Excel sheet that you created? She created this for every committee, for the secretary, for the convenience of the secretary. You're not gonna go crazy, you're not gonna have to write a lot, but we do need, because we're emphasizing that attendance is mandatory, and we're really, really looking into people coming to the meetings. We did a little Excel sheet where the secretary will be able to write the person is in person, physically in the committee center, or the person is attending online. Write it, because again, the committee rules changed, and you're allowed, right, to participate twice. So the secretary needs to point that out. The person was attending the meeting in person or remote. And the person is excused and not excused. How do we determine that? I think, and I don't know, please, Lorenzo and Councilmember Sanchez and Councilmember Hertzberg, we need your guidance, but what Isle and I thought that could make sense in order to help is, once they're doing roll call, if the chair knows that a person is being absent, and because the person is supposed to reach out to the chair and say, hey, I'm not gonna be absent because I'm sick, or I'm not gonna be absent because someone in my family passed away. Those are excuses, right? Okay. Police, chair, if you are so kind, state that for the record during the meeting, so that the secretary at that moment can just write, oh, this was excused. Oh, this was not an excused absence. That way it makes it, I think, and Aisle makes it faster and better, more accurate. What we're trying to do is make sure that the record reflects accurate facts. I think that's the goal. We don't want to say, oh my God, Lorenzo was absent when Lorenzo showed up late, or Lorenzo showed up online, or Lorenzo did not go to the meeting because he had one of the excuses. So chairs, if you know that someone has an excuse, state that in the record during the meeting, so the secretary can immediately reflect that on the paper, and nobody forgets, okay? My advice, and please, yes, Elsa, and if you want to use the microphone, please.
Yeah, because
so that people on,
we're getting complaints from people online then.
right, we have like 15 online.
I just want to say, if you're going to be absent, let's say that you're sick, In the past, we've always notified aisle. So we notify both aisle and the chairperson?
You
I
can.
don't- You just read them. I don't, does it specify, Councilmember Hertzberg? Because I
said
think you know
chair, I think.
the rules by memory.
Yeah.
Says the chair.
It doesn't. You know, in reality, the first person you should speak to is your liaison.
Yes.
Because I guess technically you have a little bit of a sunshine issue if you're reaching out to your
Correct.
chair. So I would just reach out to the liaison, and the liaison should then speak to the chair and let the liaison know. Right. And one thing I noticed, I try to watch every one of your meetings for all the committees online. I'm trying to get to them, but all in person, but I watch them all. And one thing I've noticed, a few of the discussions have discussed the absence policy, and there's been a little bit of confusion, and I'm sure Lorenzo will get to it if we haven't discussed it already. But it's 3 unexcused absences within 12 months.
Rolling months.
Right, within the rolling months.
Yep.
3 which one is 3 consecutive absences no matter what, and then you have 5 absences excused or unexcused, right? So just keep that in mind. I've heard some people say you're allowed up to 5. It's only you're up to 5, but that includes excused absences,
Excused.
right? It's not 5 in a year or 12 months. It's 5 total. So even excused goes after that 5, because the thinking of the council is that even if you have excuses, right? And again, the chair, even if you have excuses, if you can't make almost half the meetings, and especially in the committees that either are having issues with quorum, or maybe there's people that want to sign up, it's leaving someone off of that committee that could actually make it regardless of the reasoning. So keep that in mind on the 5 absences. It's not just 5.
Well, and not just that, when you have your lack of attendance, your lack of quorum, you're delaying the progress of the committee. So, you know, we have our 12 committees. We're very proud of our 12 committees, but we want to see the progress that these committees bring to our town. So the 12-month period, does anybody have a question about a rolling calendar, or does everybody understand what that is? Okay, so a rolling calendar, it used to be that let's say the 3 absences, if you had 3 consecutive in a 12-month period, it was January to December. So let's say that a committee member missed November, December, and January. Technically, it was only 1 absence, because even though it's 3 consecutive, it's from one year to the next. So we changed it to a rolling calendar, so it's 12 months. So it's January to December. Then once the next January comes up, the previous January falls off, but then it goes February through January, and it continues like that for the 3-month rolling calendar. That's what that means. So, and we continue with progress in our committees and seeing everybody move forward.
And so you understand, this is the reason for these rules. Again, there's always a reason for the rules, right? And the reasons that these rules were amended to this format is that for the past, I would say at least 10 years, the council has tried different ways of trying to enforce attendance. One of the ways that it used to be, and by the way, I used to be a committee member and I was kicked out for attendance, so just want to say that, put that on the record. When I was a member of the Elderly Affairs Committee back in 2010 or 2011, something like that. And it used to be that you were like automatically, you know, Gina would look at it and say, okay, you were absent 3 times, and call the person, that's it, you can't come back. But then many times they would call the council member, and then the council member would put them back up. And so you would still have kind of like this continuous absence issue. And then it went back to, okay, well, we're going to take it away from them, and it's just going to be to the chairperson. Let the chairpersons decide and report, but they're not self-reporting. And so what's happening is that in many of our committees, and the model of our city is very citizen-driven. The citizens here have great power. I just said a little while ago, we're the exception, not the rule, when it comes to remote. I mean, I work in many, many different other cities in Miami-Dade County. I can tell you, we are definitely the exception. And another way that we're really the exception is how much emphasis we put on our committees. Most of the town activities are not done. There's a lot that's done by staff, but there's a lot that's done by the committees, a lot of the events that are put on in the city, where you have others that it's really more staff-driven. So that's something that's beautiful about Miami Lakes. But in order for that to work, we've got to have rules. And we got to have rules that stick to make sure that people are really participating. You don't want to not allow people to participate. You're all volunteers. Nobody's getting paid here, right, to do this. But at the same time, if you don't attend, then the committee suffers. If the committee suffers, the town as a whole suffers. So that's the reason for this.
2 comments, Town Attorney. So in the rule, when it comes to B2,
Mm-hmm.
there's a word there, consecutive. I don't know if that is accurate, because it's 3 absences within the 12-month rolling period, right?
Where are you, Carlos?
So we're at section 10,
B2?
B, Roman numeral 2.
Mhm.
They accrue 3 consecutive absences. I think that's
Right,
just
yes.
3 absences with the whole rolling calendar year, not
No,
consecutive.
no, and that's what Councilman Herzberg was trying to clear up. So
Right.
there's 3 ways, right, Councilman? One is 3 unexcused absences from any regular scheduled meeting, so within 12 months. So you miss, January, March, and November, you're out, okay? Now, you can also have 3 consecutive absences. So 3 consecutive absences would be January, February, March, April. If they're 3 all in a row, you're out, whether it's excused or unexcused. And then the last one is you can have a combination. January, you were sick. In March, it was you had some issue at work. Come June, so the first 2 are excused. Come June, you decide you just want to play hooky, and you don't go to the meeting. And come November and December, you just don't show up. Right now, you have 5.
That's 5.
You're out.
All right, so the consecutive is there. Okay, because I
Yeah.
was just,
Yeah.
making sure. And the other thing is, too, that just, for the excused absences, I don't want to get into someone's medical, issues.
No, I mean,
on the
you have
record,
discretion.
So just state,
You have discretion, and you can take
So-
the person's word for it. We're all adults. If the person tells you, "Hey, I was sick. Hey, I had work issues," my advice to you is excuse it. At the end of the day, 5, you're out. So, yeah. Yes.
Lorenzo, in the remote, I think you need to really emphasize that there's only 2 remote.
Meetings, right. You're only allowed remote twice.
Only 2.
And the reason why, again, there's always a reason why. It used to be, pre-COVID, that we started to allow people to appear by teleconference. And it got to the point where people were just appearing by teleconference, and so we cut it out. We said, no more telephone. You got to appear in person. Then we had Zoom, and we had the pandemic, and everybody had to appear telephonically. And then little by little, it's getting people to come back here. So because we've allowed and continue to allow people to appear Zoom and appear remotely, we got to make sure that they're doing so when it's necessary. They're doing so sparingly. The idea is to have everybody here. And if your committee members can make it here, then you should also be here too, right? Not just at home, relaxing, drinking a cocktail while you're, hopefully nobody's doing that, while you're attending the meeting. Okay, so
Lorenzo.
the issue, yes, ma'am.
And before we proceed, I do have, and I want to recognize, we have a lot of participants, committee members online.
Okay.
If you want to ask a question, please raise your hand so that Help Desk IT and myself can help you, and you can ask your question. Because I see some, let me see, I see some questions that they're asking that maybe, and it's regarding this. If you allow me so that we don't move forward. Committee member Frank Pellegrino, I'm going to read your question, if you allow me. Let me see, chairs and vice chairs have certain discretions regarding the excused absences. I'm not sure about HIPAA regulations, if they still apply when it comes to questions. And I think that goes to the Chair of Public Safety. He was talking a little bit about that. They're asking you, Lorenzo, if HIPAA regulations still apply when it comes to questioning and verifying health and/or health death-related absences. Would that be
mean,
okay?
You don't have to start interrogating the person as to what their
Right.
condition is. They tell you they're sick, take them at their word, they're sick. Put it as excused. You should have, you have discretion. Everybody's an adult. If they have an issue that's serious and they can't come to the meeting, and they tell you that, then, excuse them. Hopefully the person is not silly enough to tell you that they're asking for an excused absence, and then the next thing you see is on Facebook that they were at the beach. Hopefully that's not the case. But absent that, use your discretion and use it to. This is not to penalize committee members. It's to really just make sure that the business is moving forward and we establish quorum and we get the business done. That's what that's what these rules are for. It
Okay,
seems overly
another-
complicated, but it's complicated for a reason.
Another question, when committee members attend virtually, are they always required to be on camera? Are they always required to adhere to the camera-related requirements, even if they're driving? That was a question.
You should not be driving if you are attending the committee meeting, it would be very, very difficult for you to do so. The way that the rules are set up is that the camera on let's see, little Roman numeral 4 says the committee member appearing remotely must keep their camera on and their face must remain visible. Normal bathroom breaks accepted during the duration of the meeting. If you go on, it says the committee member appearing remotely must be able to hear everyone attendance at the meeting. And everyone in attendance at the meeting must be able to hear the committee member. The committee member has to wear appropriate attire, so on and so forth. Also, little letter 8, the committee member appearing remotely shall ensure not to have anything obscene, distracting in the background of their video. I would think if you're driving, it's going to be distracting. So you should not be driving and attending the meeting. And also that can cause an accident. So that's not good. Any other question?
Again, help desk, if I see some people raising their hands, if you can allow them like we do during the regular council meeting, I wouldn't mind at all. I would actually like that. People from the public, this is a good opportunity. This is the perfect venue for them to ask questions about the committee rules. So help desk, I see a number. If you can put the person online.
Mr. Shuck, if you want to ask your question.
It probably goes without saying, but you mentioned medical reasons, that work related.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people who schedule vacation, and they're not going to schedule their vacation around. Oh, there's a committee meeting. We can't go on vacation.
That's a discretion of your committee, of your chairman. If they want to excuse it, they can excuse it. If they don't, they don't.
Right.
So. Well, I don't know that this was mandated. She's asking who's taking the attendance for this meeting. I'm not sure that. It's not mandated. It's
Aisle,
really
are you
to be
taking
helpful.
attendance maybe for the benefit, for record keeping of who's attending?
Who's mandatory?
I think it was mandatory. It wasn't my decision. Do we have a question from the public, or can I go remote? Because I have a telephone with a
Okay.
hand raised. You do? Okay. Go ahead, and then we'll take the remote call.
I can't give up.
Good evening. My question, I suppose, is if you're planning on going out of town, what's the ample time you have to tell your chairman that in case there is a meeting?
You should tell them with as much time as possible.
Okay.
That's the answer.
Thank you.
There's no set time limit, but with as much time as possible.
Excellent.
That would be the courteous thing to do.
Okay.
And beg him to have it as excused.
Thank you.
Yeah, at least 24 hours.
So this is something that's come up when I'm watching other committees. At the end of the day, most of these committees have had the same meeting date on the same day of the month for years. A lot of these, right? Third Monday of every month, or second Thursday of every month. It's understandable, obviously, that you can go ahead and you're not going to plan every trip around this committee, right? But if you're planning, let's say your meeting is on Thursdays, and you're often going out on 4-day weekend trips and leaving on Thursday, then you can't be on the committee. It's as simple as that. I see a few people in the committee that I was with, Miguel and Rudy. I took attendance for 2 years. I don't think they missed one meeting in 2 years. So, this is a commitment. It's a committee. It's meant to be a commitment. So the rules are written in a way that you can take a meeting or two off. That's not going to be a problem. It's just a matter of consistently missing meetings, which has been a problem with many committees. And it's a matter of having it automatic. You used to have to go back to the council member, and the council member would have to make the call or tell them. Now it's just automatic. There's no in the middle. There's no politics about it. If you're missing a specific amount of meetings, you're not going to be on the committee anymore. So there is that flexibility, but at the end of the day, if you can't make it for whatever reasons, then move off the committee and come back when you can make it. That's really the way we see this, and that's why we changed the rules.
And on that same note, somebody from the public just asked if this was mandatory. I don't know if it was mandatory or not, but I don't know. That's not my decision. But again, following what Councilmember Hertzberg just stated, it is for your own benefit to come, but we're live streaming. So if for whatever reason you could not be here tonight or you're not at home watching, this is available as a tool for you to get educated. Lorenzo Gobiela is doing a great job. We're going one by one in order to educate us all. I have two individuals that have been patiently waiting. One is Mr. Frank Pellegrino, and the other individual, the phone ends with 8788. If you can unmute yourself, we will be able to hear you. So please just unmute yourself, 8788, or Mr. Pellegrino, whoever did it first, and then the other one patiently waits. And good evening, welcome.
If you can hear me.
We can hear you, welcome.
Hi, welcome, and thank you for this workshop. Really appreciate all the time. I don't want to stymie the workshop or the discussion overall. I just want to emphasize there's a lot of ADA and HIPAA implications that I think are being glossed over here when it comes to chair, vice chair discretion. And I believe it'd be in the town and council's best interest to advise that, discretion is up to the chair and vice chair, sure, but at the end of the day, if there's something that requires a little bit more pressing when it comes to reasons for a committee member missing a meeting, that they maybe seek the advice of town council and just discuss the situation prior to that chair or vice chair rendering a decision about, the authenticity of that absence, if it is a health-related absence. That's all, and thank you for the time.
Yeah. I mean, one thing is ADA, and the town does provide accommodations for anyone wishing to participate in the town in any event, whether it be physical presence here, whether it be hearing or sight impediment. So that's nothing being affected by attendance. Attendance is just the participation, which is required of any committee of that I know of, and of any organization. The reasons for the absence, the council has that. I can't think of any government body in, again, Miami-Dade County that doesn't have in their charter, most of them, where it states the attendance requirements and the fact of what happens if you're not present for a certain amount of times, and it's considered almost forfeiture of office. So this is almost the same thing. If you're not present in your committee member meeting, you're forfeiting your office. Now, that meeting, that absence can be excused or unexcused. And again, that's pretty much standard in most cities, charters, when you're dealing with the council. And remember, as committee members, you're an extension of the council and subject to the same rules. You're not, as a chairperson, I would agree with Mr. Pellegrini. I mean, you're not supposed to interrogate the person, tell me what it is and exactly. No, I mean, don't do that. But if they're telling you, listen, I can't be there, it's a valid excuse, I'm going through something, that's enough. That's all you need to know. You move on and decide whether you want to excuse it or not. It's as simple as that. You don't have to, again, the magic number is 5. If it's 5 within a year, you're gone. Doesn't matter if it's excused or unexcused. So that's fine.
Will each member of the committee be getting a copy of this?
A copy of
This rules and regulations?
yeah, I mean, they're all up here, and absolutely.
We're all here, but I mean,
Yeah.
members of each committee will.
They can request it from the clerk. It's a public document. It's a public record of today's meeting, and sure, she can provide that for her. Okay, so I'm moving
Okay.
right along.
And
Appointments.
Let me just make sure that Ms. Santana, unmute yourself and welcome to the meeting. Welcome, we hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we do. Welcome.
Okay, I was just checking and verifying, this was effective April 2025, or was that March 2025?
I believe we had a conversation with the town manager, and he said in order to be fair to educate the committee members correctly, I think the resolution passed when in April, right?
It passed April 15th,
Right.
2025, and it says that the resolution was to take effect immediately upon adoption.
Yes.
Now, if the If there's been
In order for
a
them.
grace period,
Right, a grace period for them to
Then that's
educate
fine.
themselves. So I believe, Ayo, do you remember the conversation, if it was effective now in June or in May? I just want to make sure.
okay.
So
It
then
should
May.
be. Okay. I mean, the way it is written, it's effective April 15th, 2025. Okay, so.
I'm sorry, we did not hear her response.
Effective
Also
April
online, we
15th,
did not hear that.
2025. April 15th, 2025. That's the effective date.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is 8788. Is it my turn now? Hello?
Yes, we hear you. Good evening.
Okay, this is Hope Reynolds, and I have two questions. My first question is, the other day, attending remotely at an advisory board for the blasting group, I asked through a text message, can you reopen public comments because I was having issues with connectivity. They made a motion to reopen. The motion was seconded. And at the moment when they were seconded and I thought they were going to reopen it, they got interrupted by the liaison, and the liaison said that the committees were not supposed to reopen public comments when people were remote from their home. But there was a motion on the table. So what is the answer to that? That's my question number one.
Okay.
So I don't know whether you want to answer that now. And then my second question, or do you want me to pose both questions?
Pose both questions.
Okay, and the second question is, when you speak about sunshine law, I understand that groups of the committee cannot speak amongst themselves when they're about to vote for something. But if we approach a member of the committee to have a conversation with them and we have nothing to do with the committee, can they openly discuss with us what it is that they're planning? Thank you. Those are my two questions.
Thank you, Hope. So to answer, I'll answer in the inverse. So sunshine applies to two members of the same governing board that are having a conversation about something that will likely come back before them for a vote. So if you're doing that, and more than one person, and you sit on the same governing board, and you're talking about an item that has the potential, not that it is, the potential to come back to you for a vote, that's a sunshine violation. You can't do that. Now, somebody from the outside, from the public, can speak to any of you and ask you any questions and pick your brain on what it is that you'd like to do. And then if you want to answer it, you can answer it. If you don't want to answer it, you don't have to answer it. I mean, it's your personal, prerogative to decide what you want to do. You can also speak to council members. You can speak to your council member about an item that you're going to vote on because you both don't sit on the same governing body. Miguel can speak to Carlos about some blasting issue. They both are committee members, but not on the same governing board, not on the same committee. Now, if you have a member that sits on multiple committees, sometimes you can trip yourself up a little bit. So be careful with that. Okay. As to the issue of public comments, I mean, we discussed this at the very beginning. The way that the rules are set up is that, and I'm going to read it again because I think it merits. Any town resident organization or member of the public shall be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard on a proposition before a committee during the public comment portion of any committee meeting. Members of the public shall advise the chairperson of desire to be heard at any time prior to the public comments portion of the meeting. An individual shall have 3 minutes to address the committee or such period of time as the chairperson deems reasonable under the circumstances of the meeting. Members of the public may participate in public comments in person or remotely. And I think, again, I just can't emphasize it enough. This town does a phenomenal job of opening its doors to the public, for the public to participate in ways that really the rest of Miami-Dade County falls, far behind. Now, the reason that it's at the beginning of the meeting, the public comment portions of the meeting, if you look at any agenda, the agenda of today, it's at the beginning of the meeting. It's right after roll call. You open up for public comments, and you allow the public to speak and speak their mind. Once public comments has finished, my advice to you is, you don't reopen public comments until, okay, and this is not a rule, but this is just, it's kind of to make sure, it's not in the rule, but it's almost implied in the rule. And let me explain why I'm saying that. is wait till all the business has been done. You've concluded with everything in your business. And then if you still have time at the end of the meeting and there's people that want to speak, go ahead and reopen public comments. No harm, no foul. But if you allow public comments every time that somebody from the public wants to participate to interrupt the flow of your meeting and you don't get the business of the people done, then you are not functioning as a committee. You're not doing your work. You're not doing your job. And that's the danger of doing that back and forth. So there's got to be order, right? So my suggestion to you is, at the very beginning of the meeting, you allow public comments as it is on the agenda. If after you've done everything that you need to do, you're done, there's people from the public and that really want to speak on something, open up public comments. Go for it. Do it. But make sure that you get your job done first. That's, this is almost like, when you're a little kid, you don't eat dessert until you eat your dinner. You got to eat your dinner first, So.
Lorenzo, if I may, just because I know what Mr. Reynolds is discussing, and that's not in the rules about not being able to open up public comments when it's remotely. I think that's something that came from the manager to make the liaison's job a little easier with the new implementation of having remote public comments. Well, no, public comments have to be should be at the beginning of the meeting, but there's nothing that prevents you from reopening public comments during a meeting. And I don't think the committee rules talk specifically about not being allowed to reopen virtual public comments, right? Public comments are public comments, whether it's virtual or in person. So I'll speak to the manager about a way to do that. I understand the reason why he has that, but it's not a rule. And at the end of the day, I think it's up to the committee in reopening. They're not required to reopen public comments. You don't have to reopen public comments. That goes up to a vote, right, which you'll speak about, but that's something I'll clear up.
I think you would agree with me, council member, that it's better to make sure that the job of the people, the committee, has completed. And then at the end, you want to reopen it?
100%. You should open in the beginning, get your work done, and then if someone wants to add comments, then go ahead and open it at the end.
Right.
And that's what would make the liaison's job easier too. Instead of going back and forth and logging people in and out, that's the issue that we want to prevent.
Yeah. Thank you, Councilman. So I think I've answered that question. All right, so I'm going to move right along to the next part. Where are we?
Any other questions on attendance? Wait, hold on. You need a microphone because
Yeah,
we're
so
transmitting also online.
No, the thing is that the
Exactly.
people can't hear you that are online.
Yeah, the
Question.
participants
Is
online
some-
want to hear you.
Right. If someone comes to the meeting to do a public comment, years ago, usually the chair would say, okay, thank you so much, and the person would leave.
Right.
Does the person stay for the entire meeting?
It's their
Or
choice.
optional?
It's
or-
their choice. It's their choice.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Because I know that many years ago, they would say, okay, thank you so much, kind of you're dismissed.
Yeah.
We'll continue with our meeting.
Correct. And again, when somebody gives you a public comment, it's just that. Because I want to address something you said that I think is important. That, they would come, they would give their public comment, and they leave, and then the committee would continue with its meeting. Public comments are a chance for the public to voice their opinion, their concerns on whatever topic they want, right? And we offer them that opportunity. It doesn't have to be, at least with regards to the town of Miami Lakes, something that is germane to your agenda. It could be whatever they have on their mind. But it doesn't mean that you have to respond to the public comment. A comment is just that. It's a comment. It's not a discussion. So if somebody comes to give a public comment, they give you some information, great, thank you very much, next person. And the reason why I'm saying that's so important is that I've seen committee meetings where sometimes that public comment becomes then a substitute for the agenda. Instead of covering what was meant for in the agenda, you're covering the public comment. And that's not correct. You should really be able to carry on the business that is in the agenda and that was published to the public that you were going to do, right? So that's why I think it's important what I just mentioned previously, and Councilman Herzberg also mentioned, that you take your public comments, do your business, and then at the end, reopen public comments if you want to allow the public that maybe didn't get the opportunity at the beginning to speak at the end. That's the way that I would handle that.
We still have two questions online. Mr. Pellegrino and the phone ending in 8788.
Apologies, and I'll be quick, and I don't mean to cause any sort of tantrum, but I just want to respectfully disagree. I think that if a public comment is made, and the chair or vice chair, in the same way they have the discretionary powers that be, merit that comment having further discussion, should have the leeway to continue that conversation. I completely understand the potential for devolving the entire meeting into something outside of the original agenda, but I will say from a personal perspective that leeway and that apathy or empathy, I'm sorry, in the concern that I expressed was what ultimately led me to want to become a committee member. So I think there is a very beneficial medium for discourse there, and I just don't want to see it, squashed outright. Thank you.
So to further in my question, first, thank you very much to Stephen Herzberg for clarifying or going deeper into the issue of what I was trying to say. But let me repeat a very important point, and that is that at the moment, the chair of the committee had actually made a motion to reopen public comments. It had been seconded. And since this meeting is not only for committee rules, but also for Robert Rules of Order, once a motion is on the table and it has been seconded, the whole interruption and stopping it by saying, no, you cannot proceed was really awkward. And in my mind, it violated Robert Rules of Order. So what do you have to say to that?
I'm going to move on, and then I'm going to cover Robert's Rules of Order later on. We'll be covering Robert's Rules of Order later on in the presentation. So the next part is, unless you want me to cover it. You guys are my bosses. You tell me what to do. All right. Next part. Appointments, vacancies, and resignations. Each person appointed to a committee shall be appointed to the town council the following manner. Any qualified person wishing to serve on a committee shall, prior to submittal of an application, attend one regularly scheduled committee meeting and discuss his desire to join the committee with the committee chair. B, any qualified person who has completed the requirements shall submit a complete application to the town clerk. The town clerk or town clerk's designee shall notify the town council in writing of vacancies on committees and provide completed applications. D, appointments shall be made in accordance with Section 2.2A, Little Roman numeral 2 of the town charter. If a council member's appointment vacates office, that council member shall be permitted to submit a replacement. If any committee member has qualified for the office of mayor, town council member, they shall resign from the committee by the qualified date. Council members are currently not allowed to participate in committees. There was a point in time in the history of the town of Miami Lakes where council members were allowed, but not right now. If any committee member has okay, going on. If a person serves on more than one committee, the removal or resignation of said committee member, including in the case of removal under Section 10, from one committee shall not affect their membership in another committee. A committee member shall not be precluded from applying or joining a committee by reason of their resignation or removal from a committee. There's only one committee, or let's call it board, where this doesn't apply to, which is the Planning and Zoning Board. If you sit on the Planning and Zoning Board, you can't sit on any other committee. I just wanted to make that comment. So a committee member shall not be precluded from applying or from joining a committee by reason of their resignation or removal from a committee. Notwithstanding the foregoing, a committee member who resigns or is removed from a committee shall be precluded from applying for or joining the same committee from which they resigned or were removed for a period of 180 calendar days following the effective date of their resignation or removal. Now, this 180 days, again, is to kind of fix what was going on in the past, where, the person was removed because of the absences. Then they maybe went to their elected official. Remember, they get elected by being voted, so they don't want to lose a vote, and then said, yes, you're back on the committee. And they were put in a tough spot. So this automatically, kind of helps them and creates a buffer. If you've ever been removed, you got to wait out and sit out 6 months before you apply again to the committee. Okay? Qualifications: be a resident, be employed, or own a business or property located in the town of Miami Lakes. And also, the resolution, you have to be 18 years of age unless the committee rule specifically says that you can be a minor. And that's because really a minor should not be voting on anything that has to do with budgets. And also some committees have some things that they talk about that are a little sensitive that really a minor shouldn't be participating. So that's why that rule is in place. All right? Really the Youth Activities Task Force. And
I
then
believe
there's
we
one-
also have a student representative in the Education Advisory Board.
Yes.
Yeah.
Term of offer. Term of office. The term of each committee member shall coincide with the term appointing council member or the mayor. In the case of the mayor's appointee, notwithstanding the proceedings. Okay. Notwithstanding the preceding sentence, a sitting committee member shall continue to serve until an appointment is made after an election or a vacancy from town office. The appointing council member or mayor, in the case of the mayor's appointment, may remove his or her appointed council member at any regularly scheduled town council meeting. And there's no term limits. So that means all of you pretty much serve at the pleasure of the council member that appointed you. They can continue having you on board, or they can remove you if they want to. Membership limitation. You can't serve on more than 2 committees or hold more than 1 elected office in any committee. If you're a chairperson in the Elderly Affairs Committee, like Dottie is, then you can't be the chair in Public Safety. Yeah, that's basically the way it works. Compensation. Yeah, you can't make money off of being a committee member. Sorry, no sponsorships, no nothing, no, just can't. Oath requirement. You're also supposed to subscribe to an oath. As I discussed, there's besides Rule 286, which is sunshine and public records, we are also, you are also supposed to abide by Miami-Dade County Code of Ethics and also the Florida Code of Ethics. If you have any questions with regards to that, please let me know. I mean, the Code of Ethics can be complicated. It deals more with issues of gifts that you may receive from the public and how those gifts, especially, or lobbyists that may lobby for your, for your vote. You got to be very careful with those two. If ever you have a situation that you want to discuss, you can always reach out to me and to our office, and we're more than happy to help you with that. Moving along, the next one is financial disclosure report. As determined by the state, there's no financial disclosure that's required to be filed unless otherwise required. The committee that does require it a lot is, again, which is the board, the planning and zoning. Officers and elections. Every committee shall elect the following officers: a chairperson, a vice chair, and a secretary, commencing on January 1st to serve for a term of 1 year, and there are no term limits. Mission statement. Each committee has a mission statement. Duties of the secretary and duties of the chairperson. I'm going to and duties of the committee liaison. So I'm going to go a little bit off script and just kind of give a brief synopsis on all 3, because all 3 are important, and they all play a very critical role. The chairperson is the one that directs the meeting, all right? And they need to make sure that the meeting is being followed in accordance to these rules and also Robert's Rules of Order, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. It's very important that the chairperson really runs a tight ship. If they run a tight ship, then it's great, because you're going to have public comments at the beginning. You're going to go through all your business. You're going to have a good, healthy conversation on the topics. You're going to vote on what needs to get voted on, and you're going to have so much time for additional public comments at the end of the meeting, if you do things the right way, right? And you chair the meeting correctly. And we'll talk about that in a moment when we go into Robert's Rules, and I'll give you a few tips on how to make sure that happens. The secretary, especially under these rules, the secretary's job is very important. And also, going back to the chair also sets the agenda. So it's very important that the chair get that agenda, give it over to the clerk's office so that it can get published in time before the meeting, and everybody in the public, everybody that's listening to us by Zoom knows exactly what's going to go on in that meeting, and they know what time the meeting is going to be held, and they can make sure that they're in attendance, and their voice, their important voice, gets heard. The secretary needs to keep those minutes, needs to keep those attendance logs. Very important too, and you got to make sure that that's preserved, and again, that's given to the clerk so that when you have those biannual meetings, they're reported to the council on time. The committee liaison. The committee liaison is the one that kind of is the intermediary between the city, the town, and your committee. And here it says, shall distribute, their job is to distribute the agenda and the minutes of the last committee meeting within 1 business day, and make sure that is being kept. So those 3 roles are very important in the committee to make sure that the business is being handled and that things are being followed. Also, the committee liaison, understands, these rules. She's not a voting member, but she can, voice her opinion, his or her opinion, if they see something that they believe is, for whatever reason, not kosher. Now, I'm also going to offer one additional thing to all to everyone that's here, right? To all the chairpersons that are here. If ever you have a situation in which you feel, okay, that there could be, a misinterpretation, or you feel that the liaison is not interpreting things the correct way, have the liaison call me. Okay, I serve as not only your attorney but your parliamentarian. So if there's a parliamentarian rule, or there's something that, and we'll talk about that in a minute, that is really critical, and you're having a heated moment, get in touch with us, or have the aisle or whoever it is get in touch with me, and we can clarify the issue right then and there. Okay, so it's an offer I'm making. I'm available 24/7. The next one, budgetary and financial controls. Prior to April 30th, the committee has to submit a written report to the town, including a budget request for the fiscal year. So here, basically, it's really important that you, as a committee, plan before April 30th to have your own internal meetings as far as what is it, the vision that you have for the committee, what are the things you want to get done, and what is that going to cost? And make sure that you start preparing that so that come April 30th, you're ready to file that written report with the town. Remember that any request to move or modify a budget for over $700 has to be taken presented to the town manager, and then it's got to be taken to the town council for a vote. Okay? All committees have to also abide by the town sponsorship ordinance. If somebody wants to sponsor an event or do something, there is a process, and your committee liaison is very important to help you and guide you through that process. Let's see. Use of town name and town trademarks, don't do it. Trademarks are town property, our town seal, our town logo, they're all town property. Something that you have the access to a committee shirt, but use it when you're representing the town. Understand that when you're doing it and you're using the town logo, you are representing the town of Miami Lakes. So do it in a way that you're at an event where you're representing us, not just simply, you're mowing the lawn with your shirt, or going to a bar, dive bar with a shirt. I mean, don't do that. That's not what we want you to be wearing your committee shirts. All right. Any questions, or can I move to Robert's Rules of Order? Oh, yeah, the back part. I forgot this. So Code of Conduct, and this is something kind of new. And basically, again, a lot of these are self-explanatory. But some of them, I think, as we're going to dovetail into Robert's Rules of Order, merit a conversation, or at least paying attention to it, right? Obviously, good manners, arrive at the meeting on time, do what you got to do what's important. But let's go to the fourth one. Shall stick to meeting agenda and stay on task on the topic being discussed. All right? Shall only speak when given to the floor by the chair of the meeting. Okay, the chair is the one who can say you can speak or you can't speak. Only if the chair says so.
So Lorenzo, let me speak on that point for a second. I've sat in a few of the committee meetings recently where I see individuals just say through the chair and continue on talking without the committee chair saying you have the floor. Just because you say through the chair doesn't automatically just default to continue speaking. Wait for the committee chair to acknowledge, and then, because there's a set order, the same way that we do it up here, where we ask the mayor for permission and he sets the order, and one of us cannot speak until, like, if we want to speak a second turn, we have to wait for everybody that wanted to speak first speaks, and in that set. So please remember, through the chair, and then wait. Give it 5 seconds for the chair to recognize, and then continue speaking. Very important.
Very important, council member. Very important, council member. I agree. And again, that's why the chair is the one that's going to say yes, speak, no, speak. Wait, and the chair will give you your time to speak, but you got to wait. Shall listen when others are speaking and not speak over others. It's very important. Everybody has their time to speak, and we got to be respectful of everybody's time to speak. And that person should not speak until, again, if there should be no speaking over any other person, because you can only speak if you're recognized by the chair, and the chair's not going to recognize you. They're already recognize somebody else. So that's why the chair keeps the order of the meeting flowing. shall address all remarks through the chair and not address other committee members directly, shall not dominate the conversation, interrupt, participate in side conversations, or make unnecessary comments, shall confine their remarks to the merits of the issues and avoid any reference to personalities, shall never attack or question the motives of another committee member, shall not make profane, derogatory, threatening, discriminatory, insulting remarks, shall not disrupt the orderly procession of the meetings, shall attend as many events, shall act with professionalism. Additionally, all committee chairs, vice chairs, or other members acting as chairs in the absence of the chair or vice chair shall give all committee members a fair opportunity to be heard. Everybody needs a fair opportunity to be heard on all the issues. If everybody gets one chance to go around and somebody else wants a second chance to go around, then everybody should be given a second chance to go around and give their comments. Shall enforce Robert's Rules of Order unless superseded by the committee rules. We discussed that. And shall not exercise discretion in an unfair or selective manner. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. What do you all think? All right. So let's go to Robert's Rules of Order. And I'm going to start kind of my presentation, and I'm going to, in this presentation, answer Ms. Reynolds' question. So, okay. Why do we use Robert's Rules? Robert's Rules were developed to ensure that meetings are fair, they're efficient, they're democratic, and they're orderly. Okay? A skilled... That, I don't know, do we have any more of the handouts, Madam Clerk? For the... No, he's looking for that one of the... you got one? Okay. Thank you, council members. All right. So... Yes. Yeah, he has that one. He's looking for. Yeah. All right. Come on up. If you want one, now's your chance. Come and get them.
If anyone needs any of these documents, attachments that we're giving, you can also email me tomorrow, and I'm more than happy to share everything that the town attorney is providing.
Yes. Yes. That's also part of the rules. The going to what Ms. Reyes is saying, the issue of attending events. You should obviously attendance is not going to be taken at every single event, but it's really incumbent that you attend as many events as possible and support your committee. Very important. I mean, it's respectful. Okay. Should I get a copy of the rules? So this presentation relies on a complete version of the rules. This one is looking at Robert General Henry M.H. Roberts Rules of Order, newly revised, 11th edition, Philadelphia, 2020. The complete rules are more than most, this was done for the council members, but they're more than what you're going to need. I'm going to go through the basic ones and kind of guide you and give a little bit of kind of my feedback on how to make the committees, the meetings most efficient. Should I read the special counsel or the committee rules? Absolutely. And we just went through those. How do I get items on the floor for discussion? Okay. So this is a presentation that I did for the council, but a lot of your rules, a lot of your agenda is kind of similar, right? You have your call to order, you have your roll call, you don't really do an invocation or pledge of allegiance unless you are the planning and zoning board. You do have public comments. You do have then new business and old business and then new business. Old business is kind of like what the town does. We got our consent calendar, that's old business, that the kind of staff has prepared. We have the ordinances that kind of already been discussed. Some of the resolutions are part of NBI's, new business items, that became a resolution, and now we're bringing it back to you. So it's kind of very similar, the way that the council, the only thing is that it's divided up into a lot more sections because the law requires us to. In council meetings, you have resolutions and ordinances. You don't have the same in committee meetings. You're voting on just particular items. Okay? Should you read through the agenda? Absolutely, you should read through your agenda. So how does business come? And again, this is more germane to the town council, but I'll tell you, you as a committee member have the right to bring up your own items. You have your ideas or your desires, things that you want to be heard. The way that I believe that you should do it is communicate with Aisle or with another liaison and ask them to put your item on the agenda. And it should be placed on the agenda. Every committee member should be communicating and passing their items to Aisle so that Aisle can then communicate with the chair and they can be added to the agenda. Okay, so once you get on the agenda, you move forward. So let's say, okay, so now going to the item on motions, on how you hear items. So let's suppose that, for instance, we have in blasting, and blasting has a particular opinion on a study, and they want to be able to adopt that study as part of their, they want to advocate on that study and present that study to the council. All right, and it's something novel that's just happened. All right, so Chairman, you're the chair now? No, it's somebody else's chair. Well, whoever the chair was. But Miguel brought the item up. So Miguel, I'm always going to see as a chairman, he decides to bring up the item, and he says, look, he presents the item. First of all, this is what I want to talk. After the chair has acknowledged him to discuss his item, the chair says, okay, well, Miguel, present, this is your item. You speak on it. So Miguel speaks, presents his item, and somebody from Carlos Andres is now a new member of the Blasting Advisory Board, and Carlos Andres says, I motion that we go ahead and we move this report to the town council for adoption by the town. All right, so there's a motion on the floor. Now, what's required is a second. If you don't get a second, what happens to that motion? It dies. Exactly, it dies, which means you can't bring it back up. It's dead, okay? Unless, so, and that's the end of it. You move on to the second item, and it dies. Now, let's suppose that it gets a second. Okay, what happens next after that? Discussion, all right. So here's where the liaison can play a role. The liaison is there to provide advice, okay? She's not the parliamentarian, no, but she is there to provide advice. So if she notes something looks funky here and doesn't look right, she can bring that up to the chair. Now, that being the case, all right, so I'm going to explain this where some of this stuff goes sideways, and that's why I'm volunteering myself. Call me anytime, please. Is that what should have happened in a case like that, and I'm not sure what exactly because I didn't see the video, is that at that point in time, she's given her piece of advice. Now the committee knows about it, but you still have a second, so it still merits discussion. You can take that into consideration, whether or not they can move forward on the item, right? Maybe she says, hey, listen, I heard that there's a statute and that's illegal, what you're doing. Going to Miguel's example, right? But then there's discussion, right? And so then the committee can go ahead, once the discussion ends, on voting on the item. But once the item is on the floor, there should be nothing else that's being discussed by the committee. That should be the only item that's being considered by the committee at that time. So, going back to the example that Ms. Reynolds questioned about, if there's a question, if at that point in time, there was a concern, and a valid concern, of a rule and the reopening of public comments, what should have happened there is that there should have been a vote taken, or there should have been clarification asked further up. But it is with the committee. The vote has been seconded. It's being discussed. You can take her input as far as consideration, and then vote the item up or down. The worst thing that can happen is you broke the law. So, but again, here 24/7. Call me. So does everybody understand that? Does that make sense? All right. Now, the rules can be a little bit. Sometimes there's some rules which can lead to gamesmanship, but they're important because they are how you can move the item forward. So let's suppose that in the item of going back to Miguel's example, or you guys want me to change another example? I'll change another example. No. Let's suppose that let's continue with his example because it's easier that way. So let's suppose that it goes through the room and everybody gets to speak. So the chair goes ahead, Miguel is or whoever's the chair, and they say, okay, well, let's get everybody's opinion on the matter, and then they say, look, I support this item for X, Y, Z. Look, I can't support it for this reason. This is preposterous, this and that, and everybody speaks, right? And everybody gets one chance, all right? Then they say, okay, well, we're going to allow it for a second time, and then they continue going around. but someone feels that the conversation is getting way too out of hand. This needs to come to a vote. Let's just go ahead and call the vote. You can do that. You can go ahead and say, I call the question, right? You call the question. What happens? Debate stops. Now you have to have a vote, and you need to have a supermajority, 2/3 of the committee to vote to call the question. If they vote to call the question and then debate, then you call the question. You now take a roll call and you decide whether the item is going to pass or not. You take up the vote. All right? So that's another very important mechanism to make sure that the meeting is moving forward. And if you feel that it's not, you can. Another point is you can ask if there's an issue, if somebody's getting out of hand or getting too rowdy, you can also make a motion, point of order, okay, to the chair. The chair will recognize the point of order. That should end the conversation. And if he needs to bring back the meeting, he does so at that time. Okay? That's another thing that you can do during a committee meeting. Okay? Another thing you can do is if the item you feel is maybe not ripe, maybe it's better to give it a little bit more time. Maybe all of a sudden somebody says, hey, listen, I know that this is a great study, Miguel, but I heard that the Florida legislature is going to pass a law, is going to pass a statute that may affect this motion that you're trying to pass. Then you can make a motion to table the item. Okay, or you can take a measure to go ahead and postpone indefinitely the item. Okay, those are two other items you can do. What's the difference? Usually when you table the item, or it's really the correct term is table the item. You can table the item temporarily during the meeting and pick it up from the table afterwards, or you can table it indefinitely. Sometimes tabling indefinitely is also how you can kill an item completely. If you table an item indefinitely and everybody votes in favor of it, the item is dead. It can't be heard, and it's no longer a consideration unless somebody from the prevailing side picks it up and decides to have a reconsideration of the item. Those are different types of parliamentarian motions that you can make within a meeting to move the item forward. And again, the beauty of it is that there are these rules in place to make sure that there's no mayhem. Everything is orderly, and you get through the items. So, in the kind of the example I set forth, you could see how Miguel could present his item. It could maybe be a 15-minute presentation. Everybody speaks for a few minutes. Boom, 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 boom. And then if somebody thinks, look, we've already beaten this to death, call the question, move it. Now to the next item, to the next item, to the next item.
I feel obligated since I'm being used as the example today. But the question that what Hope was bringing up was regarding opening the public comments again. I believe that the correct answer, the proper answer, is through the chair. The chair has a discretion of opening these public comments, obviously going into a vote, and we had the vote. The difference was that the liaison had mentioned that a public comment request is not eligible if it's coming from a remote source. It'll only be in-house. Yeah. And that's where the problem came to be. Okay. So there's nothing in the literature that it could be remote source, or not a remote source.
Yes, it can be remote. It can be remote. You can reopen it. I think I've given kind of my 2 cents on what I would suggest you do if you want to reopen is really just because one of your obligations, and I read it, is to make sure that you get through all the business. So if you're constantly reopening it, you're not going to get through all your business. So get through all your business first and then go ahead and, open it. Because I have seen that in meetings too, especially live ones, where you'll have a group of people and then all of a sudden it becomes a conversation between the public and the people in the meeting, and it's not productive. I mean, stick to your business and then allow the public to participate. Please allow the public to participate, but do it at the times that are appropriate. It's
Recording in progress.
Okay, I'm glad to know that. All right, what are other motions you can make? I think I said that one. Postpone to a certain time. Sometimes you want to find out more information, so you say, okay, we're going to bring this back at the next meeting. Postpone indefinitely or table indefinitely kills the motion, and it requires a majority vote to bring it back. Be right with you in a second. Refer to committee or staff. If you need something more, you can go ahead and say, I'll look, I want you to refer this to the manager, or refer this to the town attorney, and get me more information. And table, again, is something where you want to discuss something else, so you table the item, and then you can pick it up at the end of the meeting if need be. So, what are our next ones? moving to amend. You can also move to amend the item. You can say, look, I like, Miguel's item, but I also want to include this other report or this other item, or give instructions to the city attorney, or ask the council to give instructions to the city attorney, the town attorney, whatnot. Because all those amendments are germane to the main motion. As long as it's kind of the same as the same main motion, it can be moved forward. Just like any other motion, it's got to get seconded, it's got to get debated, and you need a vote on the separate item on the amendment, apart from the main motion. Motions that can be used at any time. Point of information. If you're lost in the meeting, you don't know what the heck Miguel was talking about. Hey, point of information. Miguel, what does that widget mean? Or what does that size mean? Or those lines? Because you talk about those lines all the time and stuff. What does that mean? Parliamentary inquiry. When you suspect the rules are in error, ask for parliamentary inquiry. And point of order. Again, I mentioned that one. The meeting strays. You're a committee member. You want to bring everybody back. Point of order. Kills debate. And then it's for the chairperson to bring the meeting back and bring back things to order. All your comments, everything, when you want to speak, you wait for to be recognized by the chair. The chair will recognize you. That's his job. But let him do it in the order that he feels. Yep. His or her. His or her. Thank you. All members who wish to speak should be allowed time to speak, obviously. Motion to adjourn requires no second, only a voice vote. Adjourned. No. Questions? Get a microphone, though. Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. My question is, if an item was killed, cannot never be reopened? Is the time of frame? How does it work?
So, the council rules, I believe, on resolutions that are killed, it requires 6 months. It can't be brought back for a period of 6 months. And that's not a Robert's Rule of Order. Recently, I was talking to someone about this because it's considered universally that anything after 6 months, you can bring it back. Our rules say so, our special rules, council's special rules. Yours don't. The only way you can bring it back earlier, or bring it back at all, if someone from the prevailing side that voted on it brings the item back. But if you're on the losing side of that, then you can't. That's Robert's rules.
Not for committees.
Well, but go ahead. Oh, yeah. Mr. Shug and then Ms. Cruz.
So if somebody, like say in the 12 committees, 8 people voted yes to kill and 4 voted no, those who voted no cannot bring it up, but from those 8, they can bring it up.
Correct.
Thank you.
Correct.
So I just want clarity. So when they're going for a vote and it says all in favor, say aye, and you hear like one aye, and somebody says, okay, motion passes. That happens quite a bit. So I'm trying to understand. So how can you actually tally who said anything?
By calling the roll. By calling the roll.
Another thing you can do is, as a member, and that's a wonderful question. There's another parliamentary maneuver, let's call it, parliamentary action that you can take, which is if you don't understand who voted yes or no, you can ask for the roll call to be called again, and then people to have to say their individual votes. If you feel that there is an item and it's compounded and you don't want to divide, you can divide the question. So those are other things that you can do. So if you feel that it's not clear, then you as a vote say, I want a roll call. And you have to have a roll call at that point in time.
And then the secretary.
That doesn't require a seconded, that just automatic.
Okay, thank you.
I guess I'll go then.
Okay.
Just going back to the quorum issue, quorum's actually decided at the time of the meeting by the chair, not prior. We've received emails to.
That's correct.
To meet quorum, please reply to this email to see if we have quorum. That doesn't work that way.
I agree.
So just be advised of that. The other thing is, if quorum is not met on a publicly notified meeting, then the meeting could be converted to a discussion. providing that the discussion does not discuss anything on the agenda. So that's another statutory item.
That is, but then you're going into, and again, that's beyond my pay grade. But you know, I know there's been some concern, and I'll be frank, because I do hear that, you know, when that happens a lot, and you have staff time, the staff is there to do the people's business, and then you're going to go be discussing something that is not related to.
Oh, no. This is only when
The
the quorum
agenda.
is not met, that
Right,
a publicly
right.
addressed,
So
notified
then,
meeting.
you know, you're forcing a staff member to kind of be there when you're not going to be conducting business, because you're only conducting business if you're having a meeting. If not, you're just
Right, no, we're talking
shooting
about a
the, you
meeting.
know.
So if a meeting was, they're supposed to be there, so they're there. And
Yeah.
That's the whole purpose of notified meeting.
Yes.
And quorum is
agree.
not met.
Yeah.
Then you're there anyway.
Yeah,
So-
you can continue with a meeting. It's publicly noticed. You can talk, but really, the problem there is, you know, what are you doing? You can't conduct any business. You can't talk about anything that was publicly noticed on the agenda. People from the public don't even know what you're going to be talking about. You can't vote. So, could you? Yeah. Should you? Not sure.
It depends on the subject matter, obviously. In our case, a lot of the members have questions of who, what, where, of technicalities, and we use those opportunities to discuss that and help educate. I educate then the team.
Yeah.
That we come stronger that way.
I'm not disagreeing with you. Sometimes it's very frustrating to be confined to sunshine and not to be able to speak about things that are germane to your committee outside of these committee meetings. And then when people don't show up and you're prepared, it's very frustrating. So I get what you're saying. I also understand the flip side. Again, beyond my pay grade. So
We had a meeting, there was no quorum, and they say there's not going to be a meeting because there's no quorum. Okay, but those who were supposed to attend, will that count? You know, there's an issue about attendance. So now nobody was absent because there was no quorum?
no. You count. Okay, so I like the question where you're saying no. You count at that point in time. You do a roll call and then you take attendance. That doesn't mean that there's not a meeting. You still take attendance at that roll call.
Right, but there was an email, and this actually happened. There was an email saying there's no quorum for this month meeting has been canceled.
Okay.
Right. So what I did, because I was going to go to the meeting, I replied, say, well, don't count me out because I would have shown up.
Yeah.
You know, so how do you count the you know, if there's
Again,
no
so understand.
for the attendance
Right.
purpose, you know, who,
So-
who gets marked absent and who gets marked present.
Okay, so a couple of things.
Right.
The reason that the meetings many times are canceled ahead of time, and again, I'm speaking about something that's more administrative than anything else, is that meetings are supposed to conduct business. If you're not conducting business, you're not moving anything forward. So the only way you can do business is if you have quorum. So, you know, you have staff that are having to attend because they have to be there present, right? So if you're not going to be conducting business, you're not going to really be able to do a meeting. So you want to kind of find out ahead of time, so that way, you know, you don't waste other people's. That's the idea behind it, you know. I understand your question. I understand. Yes.
There were 7 others who weren't.
Yeah.
So how do you count that in the attendance record?
Right.
Who's going to do that?
And if the meeting were, if everybody shows up and there's no quorum, you would take attendance and people would be marked absent or not. If it's done beforehand, you're not doing that. I understand your.
Right. So you know, does that count or doesn't? You know, I'm just trying to
I don't
get
think it does.
clarification
I
and
don't
get
think
that.
it would. I don't think it would
So
at all.
that meeting was
Right.
void and not counted in the 12 months?
Exactly. You bring up a technical point, which I don't have an answer for, because that's again beyond the rules and the
Right.
laws. That's more administrative, but I can definitely, we can convey that to.
But that's not that.
Yeah.
Lorenzo.
Yeah.
It's the chair is the one that sets the quorum. The quorum is made at the time.
At the time of the meeting, I agree with
so
that.
if
No, I
it's
don't
canceled
disagree with
prior,
that.
That's against parliamentary procedures, and Robert's.
I don't know that it's against parliamentary procedures or Robert's rules. It's really an administrative task.
Lorenzo.
You're trying to figure out, you know, kids. Yes.
If I may, just to provide some clarification, with Rafael, he sits on EDC, and I have obviously a point of communication with the chair. Every chair is different.
Right.
I can tell you that EDC chair, if there is no quorum, he's canceling the meeting.
Okay.
That's not necessarily the case with BAB, and I've learned that through the years of working with them.
Okay.
As of very recent, you guys have met with quorum or with not quorum, so that has not been an issue with BAB. Maybe, 4 years ago when I started, but as of recent, that has not been an issue. Whether quorum or not, you guys are meeting, it's not being canceled unless I, personally, I'm sure Isabella does the same thing, go through the chair and confirm whether it's happening or not. Us asking for a quorum is really out of respect of people's time, and we don't have to do it. It really just depends on how the chair feels about their meeting.
Yeah. So now you know what the rules are. So if you have an issue, Mr. Shuck, and you feel that your chair is canceling meetings when you shouldn't have, bring it up to your chair, bring it up to your liaison and say, this is unfair to me. Yeah, because I agree your position. Right. No, but now you have another problem because the rules do require that you have one meeting a month. So that presents another problem.
So, good evening. Rudy Laredo, Neighborhood Improvement Committee. So 2 points to attendance. And please correct me, Lorenzo, if I'm wrong. One, it is out of courtesy, and I personally, in my committee, ask for that. Because what happens is things come up at the last minute. And I'm driving an hour and 20 minutes to get to this meeting, and all of a sudden I get to the meeting, and things happen at the last minute, or people were not planning, and all of a sudden we're looking at each other. So I'm okay with my liaison sending a communication either a day prior, confirming, hey, are you planning to attend the meeting? So I'm okay with that, because I'd rather people say, you know what, I just had a last minute change, I would not be attending, and before you know it, we don't have a quorum. And I don't want to show up again, leaving my job an hour and 20 minutes to make sure I make it here on time. So I'm okay with that. With regards to the attendance, correct me if I'm wrong, if the meeting is not held because there's not a quorum, it's not an official meeting. That as a result, that attendance does not count, because there wasn't a meeting called to order and there wasn't a quorum. So why would the attendance be count?
It counts.
Is that in the rules?
It would count. Let me tell you this much. It would count on the council. Let's suppose that we have a meeting up here and they don't meet quorum because, not going to pick on you, but going to have to pick on one
That's
of you
fine.
two.
Go. It's fine.
Councilman Sanchez or Councilman Herzberg decides not to show up. Under our charter, they're absent. And if under our charter they're absent, you're absent.
Over 10 years sitting on a committee, and the first time ever that this question has come up, and that is the answer. Because if that is the case, I'm just saying, if that is the case, and it has never been brought up, many here, or in the past over 10 years, would have not been in a committee more than they were supposed to, because those was not counted as a regular attendance. Yeah. So I think it should be on the rules that you guys just finished updating. Somewhere, if it isn't there, I think it should be highlighted, so that way people know, hey, we may not have a quorum. If there's 3 people here and there's 12 of you missing, that's going to count against, which is to the gentleman's point. And this is the first time I ever hear this.
Yep,
just
that's
a point
the way it
of
works.
clarification.
Yep, no,
So,
and that's the way it works. That's how it's applied. I can tell you that's how it's applied to council under the charter. Trust me, I'm crystal clear on that one. And that's how it's applied to you. If it's applied to the charter,
Trust me,
it's
like
applied
I
to you.
said, over 10 years, and this is the first time that I ever hear. But I'm not doubting you. I'm just saying that has never been really
That's the way
put to effect.
I understand. That's the way it works.
Lorenzo, if I may. So it definitely the way it works, because when you're at, I agree that every committee can decide how they want to meet like that. For example, if a chair decides that they don't want to meet, the chair has the right to pull the meeting if they don't believe they're going to have quorum. That meeting will not count against attendance. There was no meeting. But
As long as the chair pulls it.
Right, because the chair pulled the meeting, because the liaison calls the chair, hey, we're not going to have quorum. Do you want to reschedule the meeting? Yes, I want to reschedule the meeting. But if you all show up and you're there and the chair's there, whoever's acting chair says, okay, let's call the meeting to order. We don't have quorum. That's a meeting still. That still counts against attendance. You're not there at a meeting that was called. So I agree with you. I remember being on the committee and I had the same answer. Oh, does it count? Does it not? At the end of the day, it didn't really matter because nobody was being forced off committees. Now the rules are going to be strictly enforced. So if the meeting is called, there's a person there, the liaison's there, okay, do we have quorum, yes or no? You say no, the people that have missed because of the quorum do get their attendance reflected. That's the way it works.
So you can see where I'm coming from, right? Here's where it goes the conflict. We cannot conduct business. We cannot vote. And I know you're not sending him home, right? But then we're keeping staff there to conduct what kind of business, because you can't vote on. But on the same token, we're going to count your attendance against you. You know, I know you just finished going through, and by the way, on our rules that we have every year or every 3 years, a new council comes in, wants to revise it, and I get it. Listen, more power to you. But there's a huge conflict there, because you're telling us, don't stay there, don't keep staff, you can't conduct business, but guess what? Now attendance counts against you. That just something doesn't connect there.
But what
Just
we're saying,
my
at
2
least-
cents, that's all.
Right, I get it. What I'm saying is every chair should have the discussion with their committee and what they want to do if they believe quorum won't be met. Your committee, I'm completely fine with the way you do it. If you don't believe quorum is being met, cancel the meeting, reschedule. That's not a problem. Other committees don't want that to happen. Other committees want to sit and want that. If, let's say there's a committee of 5 and they know 2 people are missing all the time, they're going to just say, no, we're going to sit so we can get these 2 people off the committee, maybe, right?
That's something completely off now. But I get it. Now they have to go through the process in order to get them out because they're not showing up to
But
it.
the way you're doing it, for me personally, I have no problem with that. I think that's up to the chair in each committee.
Yeah, no, duly noted. I'm going to make sure that I start counting those attendance now from now on.
But we need to, because the whole purpose of having these committees and having these rules and having is to push forward the agendas of the committees, to push forward progress. If committees are not meeting monthly, so let's say that 1 week, let's say it's the first week of April, and you postpone the meeting, the chair pulls the meeting, you still have the entire month of April to hold the meeting, because you do have to hold a meeting per month. The same way that by the town charter, we have to hold a regular council meeting 11 times per year. And there's no such thing as, oh, half of us are not going to be here. Out of 7, there's only 3 showing up. The mayor's going to cancel a meeting. We don't work that way. We can't work that way because we hold back progress. That's why we have the attendance records that we're implementing now, because we have committees. I was at a committee meeting last year, and not to single them out because I'm very proud of this committee, but the Veterans Committee, on the day to pick the Grand Marshal, didn't have quorum. And that delayed a ripple effect of notifying the lake or printing signs, doing things like that. And I'm very proud of the committee. I'm a strong advocate, but it was very disappointing to see that. So to bring that progress back, we need to have these minimum requirements for attendance, where if you miss 3 or if you don't have advanced quorum, it shouldn't matter. It should still be a notified meeting, because now the public is also being notified. 48-hour notice to let the public know this meeting is taking place. You can come. It's an open forum. Is open to the public, and if you have comments, you can state them. But just to say we don't have quorum, we're going to pull a meeting after it's already been notified to the public that it is going to be happening is a disservice to not just the committee to hold back progress from attendance perspective, but also for the public that was interested in participating and giving their input on the items on the agenda. So the chair has a right to pull the meeting if you decide not to have advanced quorum, but have a meeting within the month. Have the meeting within the month to not hold back that progress. Within the month. Yes.
All right, Ms. Rogers? Nancy, you had a question? Ms. Rogers, you had a question? Ms. Rogers, did you have a question?
It's just a comment. It's just a comment. If I want to have a meeting and it's supposed to be at 7:30 and everybody's supposed to be there at 7:30, and we're waiting because we don't have quorum, and we get a phone call, I'm on my way, oh, I'm stuck in traffic. We don't know if that guy could turn around and say, you know what, I'm not coming. We've all waited for nothing. There's got to be.
It's your discretion. It's a chair's
You're
discretion.
either going to be on the committee or you're not. Yeah. If you're going to constantly get stuck in traffic, maybe you shouldn't be on that committee.
Well, if
we need to be respectful of each other's time.
So what I can tell you is a guideline rule for something like that is, as a chair, wait 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, call the meeting to order. If there's no quorum, you end the meeting, or you can have a discussion like, Chair Miguel. Right. Right. And if the chair is not doing things right and the chair is constantly canceling meetings, fire the chair. The next time that there's a vote, you elect a new chair. No, I'm being serious. That's a role and that's a power that you have as a committee. You get to decide that. Yeah.
Lorenzo, if I may interject, we've had an online participant who's been waiting patiently to ask a question. Frank Pellegrino, if you can, unmute yourself. Welcome back to the meeting. Go ahead with your question.
No one ever asked me to unmute myself, but I will do it this one time. I had a question way back on the roll call votes. I know Robert's rules doesn't stipulate any specific scenarios for which a roll call vote is required. However, Sunshine Law does make some vague references to significant votes. And I was just wondering if there was anything in the charter or our own internal town rules that was applicable to any situation where a roll call vote was required. On the matter of quorum and attendance, I had a hypothetical question of if a meeting is called to order virtually by the chair or vice chair, and the appropriate number of members don't show up, is that considered a official meeting, or does that not count? Similarly, if the 15-minute rule is applied to when the meeting starts, are the members who don't show up within that initial 15-minute window then considered absent from that meeting? Sorry for the rapid fire questions, but thank you for your response.
Okay, going back to the issue of roll call. Roll call is not necessary. It's not mandated. You can have just a vote ayes and nays. It is the clerk's responsibility to take down minutes, and that is what was required by Chapter 286 of Florida statutes. Their minutes are the ones that are going to memorialize who were the ayes and who were the nays. Now, however, it is the chair's prerogative to say if they want a roll call. It's also anybody in the committee's prerogative. If you wish to say, hey, listen, I don't know how everybody voted here. I want to call for a roll call. You can ask for that to take place as well. So nothing is violated by Sunshine by having yeas and nays. As far as the 15-minute rule, I think I just said it. It's really up to the chair. You guys decide how you want to handle that type of a situation. But it seems to me logical if you've waited 15 minutes and you don't have quorum, and you don't think you're going to have quorum, go ahead and, cancel the meeting. Take attendance. The meeting starts when it's, as the councilman said, when you have a call to order. It's called to order. We're going to do the roll call. Okay, quorum is not met. You can't have a meeting. But the meeting started, right? And it didn't, and it failed because of attendance. And so attendance is taken. At the minute that attendance is taken, attendance is taken. And you can't, not untake attendance. You can. I mean, there's not really a meeting. The meeting cannot move forward because of lack of quorum. So,
Can I?
Hey, let's be respectful. No, let's be respectful. No, let's be respectful. There's a gentleman with a mic, and I'm the chair of this meeting. You're recognized.
Oh, it's on now.
Colonel.
If I can make a recommendation, because I know there's a lot of good questions and a lot of good comments, and I have a life as well as everyone else here. So if I could recommend that all questions and comments be put in writing and submitted to the clerk, and then you respond to it, council,
Sure.
or whoever needs to respond to it, and then we kind of either post it publicly, town clerk, if you may, sir. That way everybody could read what questions and comments were. And that way we also kind of have a record of it.
Sure.
As opposed to me trying to jot down very quickly. And then we can adjourn.
So this is a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Basically is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
Motion to adjourn this meeting.
All right. I'm good with that too. My feet are getting tired.
Thank you. No vote needed. We're
But I'll take one last question from Madam Rogers.
We're trying to attempt to use the mic.
Yeah,
We
you got to
also
use the
have-
mic. Yeah.
What I see a problem with something happening is if my meeting starts at 7 and we don't have quorum, I still think, tell me if I'm wrong, I would like to open that meeting and take roll call at least.
Yep.
So that it's on the record.
Yep, that's what we've been
Because
saying.
later, you have to at
I
least
agree.
open the meeting
Yes,
to get the roll call and then call.
I agree with you,
Am
Ms.
I
Rogers.
right? Now, is
Absolutely.
that part of, because again, I'm old and the rules have changed, is that part of Robert's Rules of Order? If not, then we all need to decide if we're going to do it that way, so it's consistent. I'm on
The
two
calling,
committees.
the establishing of quorum, as Chairman Miguel said, is a function of the chair. The chair calls the meeting to order, calls for attendance. If attendance is not met, quorum is not met. The
Okay.
meeting doesn't move forward.
Okay, so
All right?
that's established.
Call
the meeting to order.
I love.
Take attendance.
Yes, I love the Colonel's suggestion. If you have any questions, please forward them to the clerk, forward them to myself. We're here to serve, and I hope that this has been informative and helpful. Thank you.
We're done? The meeting's over?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. We gotta send another 3,000 emails.